The gunshot echoed through the terminal building and everyone froze. An armed hijacker was trying to force his way onto a private jet. Pilots were terrified, passengers panicked, but Tom Bradford stayed calm. And what he did during the next 45 minutes was a display of crisis management none of them would ever forget. Tactical coordination, threat neutralization, emergency response protocols. These skills weren't learned in civilian airport management. They were only acquired at the highest levels of military command, in national security operations. So where had Tom learned them? Welcome to Veteran Stories. Before we begin this powerful story of hidden command expertise, aviation security mastery, and the generals who continue protecting our skies in ways we never expect, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be told, hit that subscribe button. Some heroes command air bases, others manage small airports, but they never stop commanding. Pine Valley Regional Airport in central Montana was the kind of facility that kept rural aviation alive. With 2 runways, a modest terminal building, and services for private aircraft, charter flights, and flight training, it served the needs of a community where flying was often the most practical way to travel long distances. Tom Bradford had been managing Pine Valley for 18 years, ever since what he described simply as retiring from government aviation work. At 62, he was respected throughout the region for his efficiency, safety standards, and genuine knowledge of all aspects of aviation operations. Tom's approach to airport management was methodical and professional. He maintained relationships with everyone from corporate jet operators to weekend recreational pilots, ensured that safety protocols were followed religiously, and had built Pine Valley's reputation as one of the most well-run regional airports in the state. The airport's modest control tower was staffed by experienced controllers, and Tom's office overlooked the main runway, giving him a constant view of all aircraft operations. His management style was hands-on but not micromanaging. He trusted his staff but remained involved in daily operations. Nothing about Pine Valley suggested military connections beyond the general competence expected of any well-run aviation facility. Tuesday, September 15th, started as a typical day at Pine Valley. Light traffic, mostly charter flights and training aircraft, with a few corporate jets scheduled for afternoon departures. Tom conducted his usual morning briefing with air traffic control, reviewed weather conditions, and checked on maintenance activities. Around 2 p.m., a Gulfstream G650 arrived for what was logged as a routine fuel stop. The aircraft was registered to a legitimate corporate entity. The flight plan was properly filed, and the crew's credentials checked out. Tom handled the arrival personally, as he did with all significant aircraft operations. The passengers, 3 businessmen in expensive suits, remained aboard while the aircraft was serviced. This wasn't unusual for corporate flights making brief stops, and Tom noted nothing suspicious about their behavior or documentation. But Tom's instincts, developed over decades of evaluating people in situations under various circumstances, picked up something subtle. Nothing obvious, just a sense that the dynamic among the passengers wasn't quite what it appeared to be. He made a mental note to monitor their departure more closely than usual. At 3:47 p.m., as the Gulfstream was preparing for departure, Tom was in his office reviewing the day's operations when he heard shouting from the direction of the aircraft. Looking out his window, he saw one of the businessmen pointing what appeared to be a handgun at the flight crew while forcing them back into the cockpit. The other 2 men were positioning themselves to control access to the aircraft. Tom immediately understood that this wasn't a business dispute or passenger disturbance. This was an attempted hijacking. His first instinct was to reach for the emergency phone that connected directly to FBI aviation security, but he quickly realized that by the time federal agents arrived, the aircraft would be airborne and the situation would become infinitely more complex. Tom needed to handle this crisis immediately, using whatever resources were available at Pine Valley. Tom's response to the hijacking attempt was immediate and systematic. He activated Pine Valley's emergency protocols with a precision that surprised his staff, who had never seen their typically calm manager move with such focused urgency. Control tower, implement immediate ground stop. No aircraft movements until further notice. Tom commanded over the internal radio system. "All staff, this is Code Red. Lock down all terminal entrances, contact local law enforcement, FBI, and state aviation security. No one enters or leaves the facility." Tom's voice carried an authority that his employees had never heard before, not the friendly but firm tone of a regional airport manager, but the unmistakable command presence of someone accustomed to managing life-and-death situations. Within minutes, Tom had transformed Pine Valley from a routine regional airport into a secure facility operating under crisis protocols that most civilian aviation managers had never even practiced. While his staff implemented the lockdown procedures, Tom focused on assessing the tactical situation with the hijacked aircraft. He pulled out aviation charts and communications equipment that seemed more sophisticated than typical airport management tools. Tom established direct communication with the aircraft using emergency frequencies, but more importantly, he began coordinating a response that demonstrated expertise far beyond civilian aviation security training. "Aircraft N347GX, this is Pine Valley Operations. You are surrounded by secured airspace. Any attempt to taxi or take off will result in immediate intervention by federal authorities." The hijackers' response came over the radio. "Clear the runway. We're leaving in 5 minutes or people start getting hurt." Tom's reply was calm but absolutely firm. "Negative. This facility is under federal security control. Power down your engines and prepare for law enforcement boarding." The exchange revealed that Tom wasn't negotiating like a civilian airport manager hoping for the best outcome. He was commanding like someone who had handled similar crises before. What happened next amazed everyone at Pine Valley. Tom began coordinating a multi-agency response with the efficiency of a military command center, using communication protocols and tactical planning that clearly came from high-level training. He contacted FBI aviation security, state police tactical units, Air National Guard, and even reached out to NORAD to establish a temporary flight restriction zone around Pine Valley. Each conversation demonstrated familiarity with procedures and terminology that civilian airport managers typically never encountered. "FBI Aviation, this is Pine Valley Regional. We have an active hijacking situation, 3 suspects, Gulfstream G650, aircraft secured on ground but armed and threatening crew. Request immediate tactical response team and aviation security assets." NORAD Mountain Home, Pine Valley Regional requesting emergency TFR. 25-mile radius, surface to flight level 180. Armed hijacking in progress, no authorized aircraft movements. Tom's coordination wasn't improvised crisis management. It was systematic implementation of protocols he clearly knew by heart. For the next 30 minutes, Tom managed a complex standoff that required balancing multiple federal agencies, local law enforcement, and the immediate safety of aircraft crew and passengers. His approach demonstrated crisis management expertise that went far beyond civilian training. Tom maintained constant communication with the hijackers while coordinating the arrival of tactical response teams. His negotiation style was professional but firm, designed to prevent escalation while keeping the aircraft grounded until law enforcement could resolve the situation. "N347GX. I understand your demands, but I need to ensure the safety of everyone involved. As a gesture of good faith, I'm having medical personnel stand by in case anyone needs assistance." Meanwhile, Tom was providing real-time tactical intelligence to the FBI response team. Suspects positioned at aircraft entry, pilot and co-pilot, visible in cockpit. Third suspect controlling passenger cabin. Aircraft has full fuel load, potential flight range 6,000 miles. His ability to assess and communicate tactical details showed training that civilian airport managers simply didn't receive. The crisis ended when FBI tactical specialists, guided by Tom's intelligence and coordination, successfully boarded the aircraft through service hatches that Tom had identified as tactical entry points. The hijackers were arrested, the crew was safely rescued, and the passengers were unharmed. But the law enforcement officials involved in the operation were amazed by Tom's role in the successful resolution. "Mr. Bradford," said FBI Special Agent Sarah Rodriguez, who had led the tactical response, "that was exceptional crisis coordination. What's your background?" "Airport management, 18 years. Before that? Aviation, different kind." Agent Rodriguez looked around Pine Valley's operations center, noting the sophisticated communication equipment and systematic emergency procedures that Tom had implemented. "What kind of aviation?" Tom paused, then decided the situation warranted honesty. "Air Force." "What rank?" "The kind that used to handle situations like this. General Thomas Tom Bradford, U.S. Air Force, retired. 35 years of military service, including command of air defense operations, strategic airlift commands, and ultimately oversight of aviation security for critical national infrastructure." "You commanded the air security response after 9/11, Agent Rodriguez said, recognition dawning. "Among other things. And now you're managing a regional airport in Montana?" Tom looked out at Pine Valley's runways, where normal operations were slowly resuming after the crisis. "Best job I ever had. No congressional briefings, no classified meetings, just helping people fly safely." But Agent Rodriguez understood now why Tom's response to the hijacking had been so sophisticated. He hadn't been improvising civilian crisis management. He'd been implementing national-level aviation security protocols he'd helped develop. News of Tom's role in stopping the hijacking spread quickly through federal aviation and law enforcement circles. His former colleagues weren't surprised that he'd maintained operational capabilities, but they were impressed that he'd chosen to use them in service of a small regional airport rather than high-paying defense contractor positions. The story also attracted attention from other airports and aviation security organizations dealing with increasing threats to civilian aviation. The Transportation Security Administration, FBI Aviation Security, and even international aviation authorities began reaching out to Tom for consultation on improving airport security protocols. But Tom was reluctant to become officially involved in federal aviation security again. "I retired from that world for a reason," he told Agent Rodriguez. "I want to help when I can, but I don't want to go back to being a full-time warrior." "What if we could arrange something unofficial? Consulting basis only when your specific expertise is needed." Tom considered the offer. The hijacking had reminded him that his skills remained relevant and valuable, even in retirement. Tom's successful handling of the hijacking led to significant improvements in Pine Valley's security infrastructure. Working with federal authorities, he implemented advanced threat detection systems, enhanced communication protocols, and training programs that turned Pine Valley into a model for regional airport security. But Tom maintained strict boundaries about his involvement in federal operations. "I provide security consulting and emergency response coordination," he told federal agents who wanted more active participation. "I don't conduct operations, I don't carry weapons, and I don't put my staff or passengers at risk." His contribution was expertise and training, helping other airports and aviation facilities improve their ability to detect and respond to security threats. The arrangement worked well for everyone. Tom could continue running his civilian airport while contributing to aviation security, and federal agencies gained access to expertise they couldn't easily replicate. Tom's success in the hijacking response led to requests for him to develop aviation security training programs for other regional airports. The TSA and FBI jointly sponsored a program that Tom helped design, teaching civilian airport managers to recognize and respond to security threats without compromising normal operations. "The goal isn't to turn airport managers into federal agents," Tom explained to a group of trainees. "It's to help you recognize when something isn't right and know how to respond effectively." Tom's training emphasized the importance of maintaining normal airport operations while being alert to unusual patterns, suspicious behavior, or activities that didn't match stated purposes. "Most terrorists and hijackers try to blend in with legitimate travelers," Tom told the trainees. But if you know what to look for, they reveal themselves through small inconsistencies in behavior, documentation, or operational patterns. Tom's involvement in aviation security revealed how retired military officers could contribute to national security in civilian roles. Pine Valley became a model for civilian-military cooperation in aviation security, demonstrating that former military personnel could provide valuable expertise without returning to active duty. The program expanded throughout the Mountain West and eventually to other regions where regional airports were seen as potential security vulnerabilities. "We're not trying to militarize civilian aviation," explained General Patricia Martinez, who oversaw the program's development. "We're recognizing that retired military personnel have expertise that can benefit aviation security and national defense, even in civilian careers." Tom's approach proved that veterans could continue serving their country without sacrificing the civilian lives they'd built after military service. 2 years after the hijacking incident, Tom was called to testify before a congressional subcommittee on aviation security. His testimony focused on the value of integrating military expertise with civilian aviation operations. Regional airports are often seen as soft targets by people planning attacks on aviation infrastructure, Tom told the committee. But with proper training and coordination, civilian airport managers can provide the first line of defense against security threats. Tom's recommendations led to increased funding for regional airport security and expanded training programs for civilian aviation personnel. General Bradford's response to the Pine Valley incident demonstrates that national security isn't just about federal agencies, the subcommittee chair noted. It's about empowering local communities to protect themselves. 5 years after the hijacking that revealed his background, Tom had assisted in security improvements for dozens of regional airports while continuing to manage Pine Valley's daily operations. His dual role had become a model for other retired military officers seeking to remain connected to national security missions while pursuing civilian careers. But Tom measured success differently than most federal officials. "My primary mission is still running a safe and efficient airport that serves this community," he told a Pentagon official who wanted to expand his involvement. "Security consulting is secondary. If it ever interferes with serving my passengers and pilots, I'll step back." Tom had found a way to continue serving his country without returning to military life, using his expertise when needed while maintaining the peaceful civilian career he'd chosen. Tom began mentoring young Air Force officers and civilian aviation professionals who were interested in learning about aviation security and crisis management. Pine Valley became an unofficial training site where military personnel could learn to integrate with civilian aviation communities. "The most effective aviation security," Tom told a group of young officers, "combines military expertise with civilian cooperation. You need both to be successful." Tom's approach emphasized building trust with civilian airport operators, pilots, and aviation businesses who could provide intelligence about suspicious activities. "These people know their local aviation communities and regular customers better than any federal agency," Tom explained. "If you treat them as partners rather than targets of surveillance, they'll help you identify real threats." Tom's model for integrating military expertise with civilian aviation security began attracting attention from international aviation authorities. Countries dealing with similar regional airport security challenges invited Tom to consult on their programs. "What General Bradford has developed isn't just about American aviation," noted Dr. James Fletcher, an international aviation security expert. "It's a model for how any country can improve security by recognizing and utilizing the expertise of retired military personnel in civilian roles." Tom traveled to several allied countries to share his approach, always emphasizing that the goal was empowering civilian communities rather than imposing military control over civilian aviation. 10 years after retiring from the Air Force, Tom had built successful careers in both civilian airport management and aviation security consulting. He'd proven that veterans could continue serving without sacrificing personal satisfaction or civilian relationships. I spent 35 years commanding air bases and aviation operations, Tom told a group of retiring Air Force officers who were considering civilian careers. Now I spend my days helping people fly safely and occasionally helping protect aviation infrastructure. Both missions matter, just in different ways. Tom's story became an example for other retired military officers who wanted to remain connected to national security missions while pursuing civilian careers. You don't have to choose between service and civilian life, Tom advised. You just have to find the right way to balance both. Conclusion. Some generals retire to Pentagon consulting firms or defense contractor boardrooms. Others, like Tom Bradford, choose to serve their communities in ways that combine personal satisfaction with continued national service. For 18 years, Tom managed a successful regional airport, helping travelers and supporting rural aviation. But when hijackers threatened Pine Valley, Tom revealed that he was more than an airport manager. He was one of the Air Force's most experienced aviation security commanders, still protecting American skies. The 45-minute crisis that amazed federal agents demonstrated something important. Veterans don't stop serving when they retire from active duty. They continue serving in different capacities, using different skills, but with the same commitment to protecting their communities and country. Tom's story spread because it reminded people that extraordinary expertise often hides behind ordinary job titles. The competent airport manager, the knowledgeable aviation professional, the safety-conscious facility operator. Any of them might be former military officers whose experience could prove invaluable in crisis situations. Have you ever discovered that someone managing your local infrastructure had operational experience that became apparent only when circumstances required it? Someone whose hidden background emerged during a moment that demanded specialized expertise. Tell us their story in the comments. Because at Veteran Stories, we believe that veterans continue protecting and serving long after they hang up their uniforms, and they deserve recognition for the ways they keep us safe every single day. Subscribe if stories like this matter to you. Because every community has former generals like Tom Bradford, men and women who chose to use their expertise not for personal gain, but to protect others in the most effective way possible.